There we go. Jesus Christ. My computer just exploded. Wow. Goodness gracious. What a way to start. I did the intro even finish?
Yeah, I think so. I sensed a small detonation on the other end, but
yeah.
got through it.
I was like, oh, let me mute the other screen because I always have the other video like playing, so I can see what's happening on YouTube. And for some reason, the screen went completely black, and I went, oh. And then the first thing I could see was just your face in this like void of darkness. I really wish it took a pic. Well, maybe it got recorded. I don't know. But anyway,
I was about to put my face right up against the camera too, so that would have been like double terrifying.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. I'm seeing the playback now because it's like I'm a minute and a half delay, so it doesn't look like any of that got recorded. Besides me being like, "What the fuck just happened?" Good googly moogly. Welcome back to another goddamn episode of Kollectiv Podcast, episode 61. I am Ivan De La Rosa. Compriano Cruz's computer is loading so slow. That's what I'm reading off of the text message in front of me. So instead, we have possibly our new favorite quirked up white boy here on hailing from TikTok, the TikTok land, like all of us do. As you can tell, like any communist podcast, this is extremely professional. It's just been a clusterfuck of technical difficulties because, as I was explaining to Nick right before I got on, I think I broke my webcam because it fell, and I watched it tumble, through the StreamYard, whatever. I went around the corner, picked it back up, put it back on the stand, and now it won't load. It just says that another app is using it, but there's no other app unless it's the feds. So geez Louise,
terrifying. This will be quickly surpassed by my my cat probably chewing my Ethernet cord halfway through this. So, and you can decide if it's the orange tabby cat or the
probably the orange
the black cat named Mango, which is the best name I've ever heard for a black cat. So
that's pretty good. Look, you got some love going on here from Coco. Oh my god,
you, Coco.
Nick, you got to tell me how to pronounce your last name. I love your dude.
I was honestly, the reason I haven't said anything is like I kind of just wanted to chuck it at you and just see how you pronounce it, because most people will get it right.
That's not fair because I'm dyslexic. So
okay.
Part of me wants to say Rubadoo, but that's not. Yeah, I didn't think so.
You added, let's see, an O and a U, so it's Roboto.
Okay, Roboto.
Yeah, it's like the Styx song. Unfortunately, for anybody over the age of everybody over the age of maybe 40 goes right to that, and it's the most annoying thing ever.
I used to listen to the hell out of Styx when I was a child.
It gets old.
Imagine listening to Styx.
First off, I have beef with you. Number one, you gotta stop.
Is it over Sticks or is it?
You're listening to dicks.
No, it's over your.
You're listening to Sticks.
You gotta drive off that bridge, dog.
That wasn't the bridge. I was busy interacting with the working class. Okay.
Oh, so you're risen up the fine commie shorties, right? Yeah.
Interacting with the working class by sitting in bumper to bumper traffic in your middle box.
You're goddamn right.
You forgot. Oh, so you're getting booed because I told people to boo you, but because you were taking too long. But but also, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It went back to racist. Me because Chico cannot be racist to you.
Boo, Andy Testerberger, boo.
Okay, so what happened was I had you know how in Windows how you can have you can split the two windows. So like I had on the left side the actual YouTube stream, and then on the right side the StreamYard because I didn't feel like turning the Mac on because I'm lazy. And as soon as the podcast started, my entire computer went black, and I went, oh well. And then only thing I saw was Nick's face on the freaking screen. So I was just like, damn.
I was hoping I was going to get that response. I don't know why, but I get on calls with people and I'll just go like this to them if I don't like what they're saying.
Nick doesn't want to hear that story again. And he's like, move on. We've already discussed this.
Look, but anyway, if someone has compressed air, someone that knows computers has compressed air just on their table.
Are you saying I don't know computer?
I'm saying you don't know enough computers.
Look, it's all computer. Sorry.
But also, I also broke my webcam right before the show, hence why you have AI.
How did you do
today.
that?
Because I was trying to move the monitor closer to me, and the webcam fell, and then I watched it tumble. It was still working.
I don't know what you have. Sorry.
Some bullshit I bought from Amazon. Makes me less of a commie. And anyway, I put it back on the stand, and now it says another app is using it, but I don't have any other apps open. So here we are, 6 minutes into the Nightmare podcast. Rip Ivan, thank you, Coco.
And there he goes.
That's insane. That's insane.
Ivan's got the plan. I didn't have a plan for this podcast. I guess we're just going to chat now. Oh, Ivan's back. Okay, thank God.
Goodness gracious. I'm actually gonna lie myself. This is
Ivan, we just had to quickly drop you out the trash compactor because you're being too much of a capitalist prick.
To two white passing people putting me in the trash, huh? Interesting. Mm-hmm. You know what?
It's easy.
Chico, boo him. Anyway. God damn. So in Kollectiv news, in the Kollectiv multiverse film unit, whatever the fuck, cinematic universe, please, if you haven't already, check out the start of our new podcast, Boys Club, all femme, all
Boys
fans,
Club,
LGBTQ
boys
podcast. It's done very well so far. We've had only one episode with the one and only Madeline Pendleton on. Shout out Madeline Pendleton. So please check that out if you haven't.
More
episodes are coming.
I struggle to make hearts with my fingers.
Let me pop in for a second there, Ivan. The people I was just talking to, I told them about the podcast, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I got to go do this." And like, "Oh, what's the podcast about?" It's like, it's called Kollectiv. We do a Marxist-Leninist podcast. They're like, "Oh, super into that." And I was like, "Cool. We have something called Boys Club that we just launched, and it's all femme presenting people." And they were like, "Oh my God, I love that." So they just subscribed to that.
Let's go.
So Boys Club is the way to go, everybody.
I also have a boys club. It involves lots of Tesla.
Tesla? I can't believe you said Tesla though. That's crazy.
I had to pull out my terrible Trump impression. That's.
It's all good. Let me.
It wouldn't suck so much if he wasn't funny. He's objectively funny. He does something funny like once a day, and you just God.
You just kind of
stop being funny.
Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was on the Deprogram podcast. It was Hakeem was saying that there's still people like in Iraq who say kafifi like unironically because of how pervasive.
This is fucking funny.
yeah, it's crazy. But hold up, let me plug one more thing. If you haven't already, please, if you can, donate and subscribe to Kollectiv's Patreon. It's only $1 a month. We are planning to put on more exclusive content on there. Right now, we have our forbidden interview that YouTube won't let us put up there. Our interview with Comrade Workwear. So please go and pay the $1 to watch it because I can't post it anywhere else.
Forbidden.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That poor guy. Complete aside here, but that poor guy. I cannot believe the deplatforming things like that.
I saw that they were on. They're associated with Means TV now.
Yeah.
Means work.
That's great.
Yeah, that's big. That's big for just the platforming. Something I thought was crazy was they posted about being debanked, and unfortunately, that's something I know a lot about. I work for a bank in real life, and
okay.
Basically, what happens is if you have a charge, let's say you decide to forget about your bank account, which happens very frequently because life happens. You have $20 left in it, and you spend 22, and you go -2, and then the bank charges you the usual predatory overdraft fee, which the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is supposed to protect you from. And then you don't pay it. So it's -22 that shows up on your credit. And also every other bank gets notified about it through this cool thing called check systems, which is basically financial big brother. So if you try to open an account and let's say you've got, $120 of charged off accounts with like 2 other banks, the third bank will know that and will just deny you an account. So that's the debanking, and it happens most frequently with people who are extremely financially desperate.
Right, and
not conservatives, conveniently not conservatives.
Right, and over the last couple of years, so many places now, like, you can't pay your internet bill with cash, you can't pay your power bill with cash. Like, now you have to have a bank. I mean, there's some workarounds now, like some other businesses have propped up, like Cash Apps or Chime or whatever, that
some people
try to
still
get away with.
Write checks to like National Grid, but that is with a bank account. Okay, I eliminated my own point I was about to make. Never mind.
Talk yourself out of it.
Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, we in that interview, we do talk about him being debanked, and he shows us the receipts and everything like that. So please, if you haven't, please check it out. It's only costs you $2. You get a forehead kiss from Cruz. Yeah, I would definitely appreciate
it.
And
I want you to know that forehead kiss is not me like through the screen to you. I will fly to your location. I will knock on your door. I will say hi to your mother, and I will give you a forehead smooch before I leave.
I'll tell you you're a good boy.
Hey, yo.
Does that work?
I mean, for me, it might. Anyway, so so one of the things I wanted to ask you, Nick, because you just wouldn't get off my FYP no matter what I would do, no matter what emails I would write to TikTok.
Yes.
When did you start going by communist Ben Shapiro? Was that something? Were you Ben Shapiro before you were a communist? Like, how did we get here?
Well, I was Ben Shapiro from birth.
Who are you?
I'm kidding. So the weird thing is, in 2020, I kind of just did what everyone. In 2020, I didn't have anything going for me. I was in college, and I was just
so real.
I'm gonna get on TikTok with everyone else, because all of my I was studying meteorology at the time. My meteor friends were all on TikTok, and they were all like, we would do like a study group together. We would all drink wine or beer or something while we were doing homework on Zoom. Mm-hmm. That was a grand old time being in college during the shutdown, which wasn't really a shutdown, but you get the point. I started making videos regularly. I had a couple of them go viral, but it was mostly just like shit posts. Like, your typical internet shit post. At the time, I was kind of like, yeah, Bernie's really cool. Mm-hmm. And then 2021 starts to come in, and we have Bernie get, the moderates kind of coalesce and do their thing.
Whoops.
And I don't really have a specific moment in time where I started to just kind of like nudge. Like I went from being like, yeah, like the socialism thing is kind of okay, to very outwardly being a socialist in probably the span of a couple months. And then I started reading, and then I became a Marxist-Leninist.
Whoa, hell yeah.
The Ben Shapiro label, though, to answer your question, I do what a lot of American politicians do, and I tend to just ramble around the question. So the answer to the question, though, is that in 2022, I started to have a decent following on TikTok. And if you look up Nick_Roboto on TikTok, you'll sometimes find old stitches from my old account. I had about 20,000 followers, maybe. It provided a decent source of income for me. And then October of 2023, which coincides with something else, I posted about Palestine.
Something
very outwardly. And then I took a week. I just spent a week away from TikTok because there was some family stuff going on. Open the app. Your account has been permanently suspended for violating community guidelines. And I was like, okay, how do I appeal it? I hit the appeal button, and it just straight up just shows me a big X. I was like, all right. So,
okay.
But the answer, see, I went around the question again. I want to say about 2 months before that, somebody who had followed me for like 6 months and was always in my live streams comments, and she goes, you sound like Ben Shapiro, right? And I go, what? And then I was like, I want to look through my comments and see if there's anybody else who says anything like that. And in every single one of my videos, there's somebody who's like, you sound like Ben Shapiro. Like when you're really passionate about something and you start talking a mile an hour, you literally sound just like him. I was like, no way.
Right.
So I recorded myself literally just saying things he does. That is literally impossible.
So at some point we have to get you to make a video on Kollectiv that's exactly like PragerU, like coded, but it's kind of I'd like you.
I would love that so much.
And you openly are like, "Hi, I'm Ben Shapiro here," because that will probably get back to Ben, and then we all got a bigger target on our back.
There's a part of me that there's a weird part of me as someone. I haven't even talked about high school me, who is conservative, 2015, 16, 17.
Uh-huh.
I was a Trump guy. And then I was like,
okay.
Hey, this Bernie guy has some good points. Why do I find myself agreeing with this Bernie guy? So like, I like to joke that like Bernie Sanders is a moderate in any other part of the world, but if he were to run, I would owe him my vote and like a couple phone banking sessions for getting me into politics, like beyond just supporting the status quo. But the Ben Shapiro point, I kind of, after my permaban, I came back. I made this account maybe like a year ago, but I just didn't use it. And then last year, August maybe 2024, I just started posting regularly again. Like I had like a fire just lit under my ass out of nowhere. So I have a platform again, and that's crazy to me because I don't think I say meaningful things. I have a severe case of imposter syndrome.
Welcome to the club.
That's just how it is sometimes.
Yeah. I definitely relate to you in that sense. So you went from a conservative to a Bernie bro to a Marxist Leninist.
Very quickly.
How did you feel like, I guess how ingrained do you think you're sort of were you into conservatism? So like for me, I've talked about before, like I was, for sure it was a liberal. I supported the Democrats and Obama, but up until when I went into college, I started calling myself a communist, but I didn't really know what communism meant,
That's the best one. That's like the most ballsy thing you can do politically is just start calling yourself a communist and not know what it is because you're going to get hammered by people who also don't know what it means.
People on TikTok do it all the time. I mean, there's tons of TikTok communists who ain't shit. But anyway, go on.
Can I start a war? Can I start some shit?
Yeah.
Okay. The majority of TikTok communists are liberals, and I'm looking at most of you.
That's
if you're
so
watching this podcast right now, chances are you're a fucking liberal.
How could you say something so controversial?
I'm a communist, but why am I? I'm like, wait, what was I gonna? Where was I gonna go with this shit? I just completely lost my train of thought. There's like something brewing in my head right now, and I'm trying to like get rid of the cards on top of it and make my way through the deck.
Let it brew.
It's definitely something on. Oh, I'm a communist, but where are my where are my treats? How come the avocados are another $1?
Yeah. I see a lot of these people who go on TikTok, they'll say that they're a communist after, reading half of a book and 3 weeks of sitting in TikTok lives and being like, I am a stout Marxist Leninist, I'm an anarchist, I'm whatever, and now I'm gonna go on live and talk about things and I know what I'm doing. And most people don't. And it's very dangerous to the movement and to themselves. And I think for a lot of people, they much like when it comes to also, extreme conservatism, just like on the left, I think a lot of people, young people, look for when they're downtrodden, they want to be part of not a marginalized group, but like an outlier. You know what I mean? They look for meaning.
They want to be in the
things. Right? They want to be on the podcast. Right? Exactly. This is a tell-all episode, huh? But anyway, so yeah, going back to the question, so how ingrained did you think your
See how I avoided it again? I'm good at it. So, how ingrained do you think? Is that what you meant? You wanted me to answer?
Yeah.
How
So
ingrained do I feel it was?
Yeah.
So, all right. So, it would be so funny if my dad was watching right now.
Hi, Dad.
So you should send your dad the link.
My parent, I was born in a little bit north of Boston, suburban white family. My parents struggled during the 2008 financial crisis, and I watched them struggle. But truthfully, never had to worry if I wasn't going to have a nice, chicken nuggets dinner with a glass of milk. You
got your treats.
Yes, and I played lots of sports. I was in a private elementary school. I ended up going to a private high school. And then I went to Penn State for college, which is certainly a flip. And I felt like the conservatism was kind of ingrained in me from a young age with the private elementary and middle school and just being a Catholic.
Yeah.
Then in I want to say maybe middle of my freshman year of high school, I was like, I want to research this atheism thing a little bit.
Oh no!
Yeah. It kind of devolved very quickly. So I used to read the Bible before bed, and I would read multiple passages. I would probably read for an hour and a half or 2 hours until I just fell asleep. And my mom would joke that I would wake up and the Bible was by my bed. And she's like, "Why'd you drop the Bible?" I was like, "I don't know." Even though my parents never read it, I was really into it. And then I went to this private high school, and the private high school I went to was in the next town over.
Yeah.
Lawrence, Massachusetts, Central Catholic High School, which is also that high school that the White House press secretary went to, and she graduated 3 years before I did.
Damn.
I interacted with her a couple times. So my high school posted on the Instagram, "Oh, look, she's representing our country." And the comments is just walls of alumni being like, "Please take this down immediately. We're not happy about this."
Wait, no, I don't support that. No, that ain't me.
Yeah. It's definitely the Central Catholic. There's a lot of Central Catholics, but the one I went to in Lawrence is still a majority white school, like a lot of high schools, but they did a good job of at least pretending to care about non-white folks. They gave lots of scholarships to the surrounding community. Lawrence is overwhelmingly Hispanic and Black folks. And they did a good job.
I missed the state. What was
Massachusetts.
Okay.
Massachusetts. So I went there, and it was just kind of being exposed to a whole new world because I went from a well-off suburban town, and the very next town over is Lawrence, and that's bottom 3 poorest towns in Massachusetts.
Right.
I volunteered at a couple different places in the area, homeless shelters, did food drives and stuff like that. And just the looks on people's faces when they haven't had a pair of clean socks, and you give them a pair of clean socks and a couple other things like a care package, and they cry. They would almost always cry. I was like, wait, so I'm conservative. This was my sophomore year, junior year. And my friends were left-wingers. Hi, Sean. Hi, Gabe. My friends were left-wingers, and we're kind of like, hey, so you're caring about people. Where's the disconnect? And me, I'm watching Steven Crowder in the middle of class.
See, I'm going to call out Sean and Gail, or Gabe. I don't know what you said, Gabe.
Yep, they basically
about Baldur's Gate. Because how are they going to be friends with a conservative? What do you mean? Well,
literally.
I digressed. Yeah.
I got introduced to those two in my English class my sophomore year, and they just every time I would paste something or talk about something, they would hammer me. Absolutely hammer me.
Every time you were doing Holocaust lit or anything, they would just look at you and be like, "Oh."
I didn't get that far, but I got pretty close to the small brains part.
Oof.
That's what I say. And I like to say they dragged me out kicking and screaming because they just wouldn't let me go. So I would try to distract. So they would say something, I would say something, I'd try to change the subject of I'm not letting this go. I was like, all right, I'm going to start watching a couple other things. Can you give me something? Kyle Kalinske. All right. Hey, look, I'm an atheist. I'm going to watch this guy.
Yeah.
Start picking up a couple more things, became the Bernie bro. And then it kind of devolved from there. But I definitely still think the conservatism is very ingrained in me, and I'm willing to admit that. And it's because I find myself thinking things I'm not supposed to think, like saying, like I work in.
And you challenge it.
Yes,
that's the ultimate thing, right?
I'm in Albany, the Albany area of New York, upstate New York, and this city is so. It is clearly crumbling, and it's sad. And there are towns around Albany that are doing fine. Albany itself is not, though, that sort of white flight thing. And it sucks to see people homeless around here. And it's like there's a problem with it, obviously. Homelessness problem is not a problem with homeless people. It's a problem with we have plenty of housing and we don't use it. And Albany has like some affordable housing measures, but it's nothing.
Absolutely. Insane. Yeah. I didn't realize you were also in New York, because I am also in New York and was just in the Albany, Troy, Cohoes area like 2 days ago. Yeah, I mean, and you could just drive around and you just like see it, like it's so obvious, and it's so frustrating because like you'll hear liberals right now, especially in this new, the quote unquote new era of Trump again, that like all these Democrats, all these liberals, they want to go against Trump. They want to talk about how evil and vile he is, right? But then somebody like, Kathy Hochul and, the big corporations, the police state here in New York.
I can't believe how much I hate our governor. You absolute gremlin.
Right. But the point I'm making is as soon as, our man's, the Mario brother did what they did, right? Kathy Hochul was talking about, committing, millions of dollars of resources to state police. You know what I mean? It's just like you have the money to do that, but meanwhile, in your city where you go to work, there are homeless. There's homeless people everywhere. Like I don't know. I digress.
That's the thing with Albany is just it's just a perfect example of like everything wrong, because you can like there's parts of the city, especially when you go to like the inner part, not necessarily where the Capitol is, but like right next to it, Lark Street, things like that, where you see like mixed use housing, like you see all the older architecture, you see how the streets were built, you have these little shops and stuff, and then right next to it there's just everything's closed. It's so interesting just coming from a suburban environment where everything was a strip mall and everyone had a car, and a lot of the people who live here don't have cars.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to not have a car. I hate having to drive a car.
I would love to not have to drive anymore.
See, that's how I feel, because as Cruz and some of the audience also know, I crashed my car the other day. So, as soon as that happens,
into the bridge.
As soon as that happens, I'm just like, hey, how much is this going to cost me? And
that shouldn't be the first thought. That shouldn't
millions
be
of dollars
crash.
Like if I buy a Tesla. Why'd you cut yourself off? You said when you crash, silence.
I said like that shouldn't be the first thought in your head when you have a crash. Right.
Well, if he drove a Tesla, he would be going, how many seconds do I have till this explodes?
I would have on impact, dog. This Ash, as the CEO of Bayer, and Bayer had his house burned down yesterday on purpose. What do you mean?
Bayer, the pharmaceutical company?
Was this intentional?
Am I thinking of the same Bayer?
I'm gonna look this up right now because now I need to know. But anyway, while I do that real quick, so I was looking at the things that you want to talk about, right? And,
yes.
One of the things you mentioned was simplifying communication. So, like, what do you mean by that, big dog? And yes, the multinational pharmaceutical company CEO's house burned down yesterday
on purpose.
I have extended family members who work for Bayer. I'm sure they're not happy about it. That'd be funny though. Maybe I should text them about it.
They'll be okay.
Anyways, so what I'd like to say is that there's definitely an online disconnect with the far left, the radical left,
the looters, yeah,
the atheists, the Marxists.
The anarchists.
And generally people that have no idea what they're doing. No good.
They're too bright. Turn them off. The communication, there's definitely a disconnect because I feel that a chunk of the online left, I don't say online left as a derogatory term. I think a lot of people do. But when I say online left, I mean people who consider themselves socialists and communists. And you are talking with people who support capitalism or support the status quo.
Yeah.
There is way too much focus on like debating what like the inner workings of the market economy or how like because when you argue with a capitalist, the burden of proof is on you. So they're always like, oh, how's your ideal society gonna work? How is this gonna work? How will farmers make crops? Like, you know, random shit like that. Instead of just like sticking to surface level, because most people are stuck on surface level. So when I say that, I mean that we're getting analytical. We're talking about in-depth concepts with people who still don't understand what socialism is or what communism is, or even what like a different variant of capitalism is. We're trying to put them over here and they're not even in the middle yet.
Yeah. I go ahead.
I was going to say, so like, you know, Ash is commenting in the chat right now, but I think Ash unironically does a really good job at addressing the thing you're talking about, where I've been in Ash's lives and seen her where people will just say something and be like, okay, we're going to step back for a second. What is capitalism? Like, what is socialism? Before we actually get into this minutia of what you want to talk about, I need to understand that you know what you're talking about. And Ash is really, really good about that.
Shout out Ash. Comrade Ash. You can always catch them on live. We were also
Janet, yes.
Lives now,
sorry.
Lately. Good Lord.
I just yell. Compañero, you weren't here yesterday. Or yesterday, an hour ago, 45 minutes ago.
Our longest podcast, yeah.
Our longest podcast, yes.
24-hour stream.
Fuck that.
Earlier, I was talking about how, and there goes my train of thought. 2.5 weeks ago, I got diagnosed with autism. Like okay. I am, and the reason I don't feel I was diagnosed when I was younger is because I have an older brother who's much more autistic. And so my parents were like, nah, this kid can't have a shred of that shit. So I find that I just blurt shit out. So like you guys keep talking and I'm just like, guys, look at the comment. And you're like still trying to finish the thought. But Janet said Bayer. Bayer made like gas for the Nazis, if I recall correctly.
I mean, it's a really German company, dog. It's a German company. I mean,
I've seen some posts today where like, because like Trump had the Tesla lineup in front of the White House, the Tesla.
Everything's computer
in front of the White House, and people today and yesterday have been posting about how like, hey, this actually did happen, where in Germany they promoted Volkswagen.
Yeah,
like, they had a whole line in front of like, I can't remember. It's not the Reichstag, but the German, like
some Angloid word.
It's something like that.
Something that sounds a lot cooler than it actually is.
It was literally the exact same thing, right? And it's like the one-for-one parallel is so hard to miss.
Right.
Also, was it the Indy 500 or Daytona 500? He drove around in the limo.
It's probably.
I have no idea.
He hit like the presidential motorcade went around the racetrack. Hitler did the same thing. Like. It's like, yeah, all the stuff is lining up, but why is all the stuff lining up? But
right.
Kind of to get back to the question, it's that we're debating specifics and going in depth, and most people don't understand the surface level. So part of the reason I post is because I want to be the start of the pipeline. I'm trying to be the funnel of the pipeline. Because that's what I feel most Americans are at. So like,
yeah. No, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, TikTok communists, and we seem to talk about this a lot, but it's true, and it needs to be combated and it needs to be addressed. This is why, Kollectiv does what they do, because I am not really in the live spaces much at all. I've been doing it now more, with Ash, promoting what we do. And yesterday I was talking to a woman, very nice conversation. She just had very simple questions like, what is communism? Like, what is Karl Marx? Who is this and that, and like, you can see like when someone says something that is not like 100% the correct answer, but like they didn't say anything like super crazy, like they weren't being racist or anything or ableist or whatever. They were just kind of like
misguided.
Oh, so like, well, like, what about Stalin? I heard Stalin killed people. And then like the comments of my own mutuals will be like, you fucking idiot, killer. And it's like, bro, relax.
Take it all back immediately.
like you're never gonna get to anybody if you react to people that way. Like, you're a reactionary. You need to slow down. Like, I guarantee you, if you sat and you talked to us, or you talked to me, or talk to someone like Cutie or Ash, like, you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know what you're talking about. So like, take a breather. It's gonna be all right.
I think that like that's a very real thing where I think a lot of people, Americans especially, forget that they were once that person.
Yeah.
Because there's not a single person in the United States that just like knew about Stalin, knew about Lenin, knew about Marx, knew about this without some level of propaganda, and they forget that. So when they've already unlearned it, or have begun the process of unlearning it, I should say, and they encounter someone that has not begun that process of unlearning it, they immediately call them stupid and say, "Are you calling yourself stupid? Because you were there like 2 weeks ago."
Yep, 100%. There's a degree. There's a degree of you can't talk to these people anymore that I like to talk about. There is definitely a point of no return when they start really going that way. But for the most part, most people you can still talk to. Most people are still stuck on what socialism and communism are. And if you start explaining the tenets of a non-capitalist based economy to them, they will usually agree with you, which is the most fun part. Funnest? No. The most fun part is you can start describing socialism, and at least in my experience, you can get people to agree shockingly quickly. Because they'll be like, oh, well, that sounds fair. Like, this guy probably shouldn't have so much money. I before I hopped on this, I did tell you guys, I studied meteorology in college. I've been a weather nerd my entire life. I'm hyper focusing on the tornado outbreak coming to the southeast tomorrow right now. Something really interesting is that, and there goes my train of thought. There it goes.
Meteor, southeast storms. Nothing rings a bell. No. Okay.
Nope. Well, nothing. So most people are like, if you can't, son of a bitch, dude. So most people aren't too far gone, but like, you need to get people to understand that there are people throughout the United States that are government workers whose job it is to go outside and literally let a balloon go up. And they use the observations that weather balloon makes as it goes up, the pressure, the temperature, the dew point, like all the measurements it takes, that's critical to forecasting. And most people, if you explain that to them, will go, okay, so we need the National Weather Service. Like, stuff like that. Like, that's something people can agree with. And yet you have a sect of the population that's just completely gone on that. But for the most part, you can get people to agree that we probably shouldn't be cutting the National Weather Service or the Department of Education.
Yeah.
I don't really know where I was going with that. I'm trying to find my way back to what I was trying to say.
I feel like I kind of get what you're saying, where it's like most people might be like, offhand, just be like, oh yeah, if it's spending too much money, why do we need that? And then you just give a very basic explanation as to what it does, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And you're like, Did you
And
know
there's the trick.
Yeah. You know they're getting rid of that, right? And they're like, oh, what?
Well, I think too, for most people, especially Americans, most Americans don't know what it's like to live in a society that can where political change like immediately affects them.
Yeah.
So
great point.
They process, they hear information and they don't process it. And I've experienced it like at work, for example. Like I'll have somebody, who's not a conservative, who's not, a bad person or anything like that, and they'll be like, yeah, I can't wait for, Trump's gonna give us the, that $5,000 check. And then it's like, and then you just ask them, you're just like, hey, like, do you really think that's gonna happen?
That's such a good idea.
Usually, hold on. And they're usually like, oh well, I guess you're right. And it's like, yeah, most people they just don't follow things through. And that also, it comes from multiple different factors. One of it, like I see in the comments, is trauma.
Yes.
People who are living through emotional or physical trauma in this society that we live in, are often not equipped to have to, to think about these things, and that's intentional. It's part of the conditions that the capitalists put us under. It's also like, now I'm losing my train of thought, but it's like also, basically like people are intentionally kept into situations where they don't have to think these things through to their logical conclusion.
Mm-hmm. They're thinking about it moment to moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. The craziest thing, one of the reasons I brought that up is because the weather service in Albany, and then I believe another station in Maine, was like, hey, so we don't have enough employees to release the weather balloons anymore, so we're just randomly not going to be able to do it. And that has reverberating effects. If I can't release a weather balloon in Albany or in this station in Maine, now the weather service in Boston's like, okay, what's going on over here? Like, we don't know what they're seeing, and we can't incorporate that into our forecast. Like, that has reverberating effects. Like, so people don't think about those things, and people don't think about the, like, Ivan, like you said, the immediate impact of political decisions is something Americans usually do not have to reckon with, and now we're being forced to. And Americans also have the luxury of not caring about politics. In other countries around the world that are anywhere close to the stature of the US, not only do more of their citizens care about politics and more of them vote, most of their population also has to care about American politics because American hegemony has this curtain over them that they need to make sure isn't about to fall on their face. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it depends, particularly obviously on the particular American, if they do pay attention to politics or not. Us, for example, people who, are disabled or belong to other marginalized communities. But even then, as a whole, like most Americans, most liberals are just not going to pay attention. And when they do pay attention, they're paying attention to the wrong things, like, it goes back to like this resurgence of Trump hate. And it's like, yeah, fuck that guy. I don't like him. But like, the buck doesn't start and stop with him. This has been ongoing.
So crazy debating human rights. It is so ridiculous that like the conversation is trans rights and women's rights. Like the fact that we allow it to be tabled gives legitimacy to taking away women's rights, taking away the rights.
Right. Well, but that's particularly what the liberals are doing, and what the likes of Gavin Newsom are doing, which, on the Boys Club podcast on their next episode, they're going to be talking about that in particular. That's happening because the Democrats are trying to move their platform further to the right. And you can see in their own analysis when they're talking about why they lost the election, they're saying maybe we should be a little bit more cozy with the corporations. Maybe we should let go of abortion rights in certain states and things like that. But like you're
saying,
to
double down.
Right. Like when you're saying, about like, why are human rights up for debate? That's why, going back to what Ash said, we shouldn't be debating these things. And that's, when we're in these spaces online or in person, as communists, we should not entertain that. We should not be watching Jula B going on, some ridiculous show like that, because we're not going to sit here and entertain the idea of whether or not certain people have human rights or not. It's just not a conversation. It's not a debate.
Sorry, my cat was just screaming, and
we always show cats on the podcast.
Yeah.
Look at that HD 4K cat.
Classic cat.
This is
Garfield-ass looking
Vanessa.
cat.
This is Vanessa.
Vanessa.
Oh.
Or
Why is the black cat called Mango, but she's Vanessa?
They were both named that when we adopted them at the shelter, but this is Ness or Nessie Poo.
Say again?
Ness or Nessie Poo. I call her Nessie Poo. Hey, Nessie Poo.
I'll call her Nessarita. But anyway, yeah.
She likes to be
Go
held.
ahead.
Nasadilla.
Me too. I too enjoy being held. But yeah, no, I generally agree with what you're saying. You know, I think people have to be able to. We definitely do need to simplify what we're saying on the left and moving them here, which is kind of, again, sort of like the ethos of Kollectiv. Like, we generally don't make super complicated videos in the hopes that people then will come and watch our super complicated videos, you know, that are, you know, half hour long, 40 minutes long, an hour long.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's important to see your place in the pipeline, so to speak, because on the right, they have their own pipeline, and it's very sophisticated because they have hundreds of millions of dollars to work with, and we don't have that. They have if somebody on their side of the aisle doesn't want to talk anymore, they can just pay somebody else to do it. That's the lure of capital is really strong. But they have their own thing set up. So we're talking about how I used to be conservative, is that you have your Ben Shapiro, which is maybe Ben Shapiro is not your entry level. I feel like to a degree Joe Rogan used to be entry level. Joe Rogan's just insane now. So you don't need to yell at everything. It's okay.
I feel like Joe was always kind of insane, but all those guys take like a crazy amount of chemicals and drugs to stay ripped at that age. So, you know, who knows what else is going on in their brain.
Ben Shapiro, then you're Steven Crowder.
Or gone deeper.
Yes. Then you get Steven Crowder, and then when you're watching Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder at some point, you start watching PragerU, and then PragerU legitimizes Gavin McInnes, and now you're down here.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Ness, you're fine. Come here.
I like a couple of the answers in the chat where, in regards to debating human rights, it's like it shouldn't be a debate.
Right, exactly. It's not a debate, but the right has managed to table.
They try to make it one.
Oh, that's a really good point. Because Destiny is what I would classify as like very fake liberal, like even for liberal standards, fake liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting thing with him and Nick Fuentes, by the way. That was weird. Okay.
I know.
You're not allowed to clown me, sweetie.
I don't know anything about it.
I barely pay attention to the drama on TikTok. I don't know what the fuck is happening on YouTube.
I unfortunately found out about that.
Yeah. I'm good. I feel like the pipeline to the right for a lot of people is their dad. Because the ideology. Maybe you could talk about that, Nick, because you know, the default ideology is liberalism, it's conservatism in the United States. So most people's dads who probably don't know really anything you're gonna listen to them.
I grew up with the luxury of having a dad who was liberal because we lived in Massachusetts.
So you were conservative to like rebel against your dad because
that was definitely part of it. I haven't actually thought about that before because both my parents have always been like blue, like or something.
That was your teenage rebellion.
Yes. Oh, I just vibrated my desk. That's great.
So one of the things
that was part of it for sure.
So one of the things you mentioned too about you want to talk about, which I think you know is a good way to kind of wrap up the conversation. So you're talking about personal presentation, appearance, and posting convincing content. So are you saying that we don't got the drip or what?
We do not.
Talking shit.
No, this is more like a general thing. So it's the fact that when you're talking with the right, talking with them, discussing with them, presenting to them, which my cat is just yelling.
I can hear. Yeah.
Like it or not, we are presenting to the right at all times because you're trying to get some of these people over to this side. Because I say this a lot, like it or not, we're going to need people who like Donald Trump. Like, you're going to need to convince some of them to come over.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that they get hung up on that prevent them from understanding your argument or engaging with argument is they go for ad hominem, they go for personal attacks, and they attack your appearance. So it's not to say don't wear drip. It's not to say don't wear earrings. But like, their fantasy is the screaming liberal and the red hair and the glasses, and not the glasses, but you know what I mean? Like the piercings, the red hair, like they go, haha, and then that's it, and they don't pay attention to it. So it's not that this isn't valid. You can definitely wear what you want. But part of the reason I think I have a little bit of success, especially when I talk with these people, because I do engage with a lot of them. They message me, they email me. Ness, come here. You are just screaming. She's hilarious. And it's funny because my other cat is dead silent. Anyways, so when you have these things working for you, they often attack the appearance. So one of the reasons I feel like I have any success is because I present as the most milquetoast white man possible. Because I kind of am. I'm a straight white guy. I am not super muscular, but I work out. My appearance is relatively neutral. I have glasses.
You look like Ben Shapiro, bro.
Exactly. And if I were to dress up, I would throw on a button up or something. I try to be well kept. My eyebrows are groomed. Like, this is so people can't attack my appearance. And when they do, they look really funny because I look very, very blend in. But I think that's where the strength comes from. So it's a little bit of a more controversial point. I agree, because I think appearance in itself is a way to, when you express yourself through your appearance, you are saying something political sometimes by dressing differently or not doing what you're told, so to speak, to go back to that rebellion point we were making earlier. But when you're presenting yourself as just sort of middle of the road, very standard, you remove a box they can put you in. If that makes sense.
And I don't entirely disagree with you. And I saw a comment, QD, saying you got to look like you took a shower in the last 7 days. And I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, did we lose you? Ivan? Uh-oh. Beans.
I figured that that's kind of like a less. Okay, you need to calm down, Ness.
Okay, breaking news from Ivan. Everything shut off. I think my cat knocked something, is what he said. Ivan.
Well, that's
Ivan
funny because the cat must be hearing Vanessa. But the appearance thing is like, I know it's an interesting opinion to have. I know it's a little different, but that's honestly what I think is that. Well,
so what I'll say to that is, like Ivan, I don't entirely disagree. Right. Appearance, there's a level of appearance that has to be there. Kind of like a level, not necessarily professionalism, but a level of like, you got to at least seem put together. I don't care like someone's hair color or anything like that, but like, to Cutie's point in the comments, you got to look like you took a shower in the last 7 days. That's just an easy target for people like that,
right?
Who focus on ad hominems and people that focus on overall appearance.
And their ideology focuses on appearance.
The ideology focuses on appearance and generally what you look like, what you smell like, how you present yourself. And the goal, I would say, ultimately is to break down that level of thinking,
right? Where
it's like, why is it, if I'm wearing the same shirt twice, why does that actually matter based on what I'm saying? Like if I'm saying, hey, women deserve the same liberation as men or the proletariat, why does it matter if I wore this shirt 2 days in a row? Why does that matter? And the trick is to get them to kind of realize, well, why do I care? Why do I actually care about that? You know?
All right. Holy fuck. I don't know.
Yeah, and to comrade to Ash's point in the
chat better be washing ass.
To Ash's point in the comments, I'm not on the thing, so I can't bring it up. But Ash said we aren't trying to appeal to the right.
Yes.
That's exactly the point. We don't have to appeal to the right.
Oh.
We don't have to look a certain way. We don't have to dress a certain way. Because ultimately what we're saying is like, hey, all humans deserve the same liberties as other humans. And if they don't agree with that, it ultimately doesn't matter what we look like. We can be as put together as we want, while being put together can kind of push us to at least get them to listen a little bit more. It doesn't change the fact that they don't believe all humans deserve rights. They don't believe all humans deserve rights.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a middle of the road point, because if I take it too far, I'm trying to put us in boxes, and I don't want to put us in boxes. But it's that when you're talking and when you communicate with the right, that's the first thing they cling to is what you look like. And there's a degree of privilege I have in saying that, because I'm a white guy. If you are not white, if you are not straight presenting, you are immediately at a disadvantage. That's a huge issue, obviously, with them. Exactly.
Right.
You don't want to look like a Republican. It's something I wanted to explore a little. Ivan, I know you wanted to talk, so if your computer works, please,
so the fucking anti-shower mafia got me, because my whole setup, both computers, everything just turned off. I don't know why.
Wash your ass immediately.
But anyway, what I was going to say, let's see if I can gather it back, is so I agree that, of course, like, you should look, presentable. You should look like, you've showered in a week, if you can do that, right? But at the same time, I think sort of where I disagree is, or at least could expand on the idea, is that I think it really depends on who you are and what is your role in this, right? Because like you're saying, that you have that privilege, you are a straight passing masked white guy, and like you're, like you said, and a dingest. Okay. So like you said, your job, like, you wear suits and whatever, like, that might work for you, and that's in your advantage, and maybe that's sort of what your responsibility is in all this, online yapping, to get maybe people who look like you, like white people, into the pipeline. But like somebody like me who like already immediately, is indigenous looking, is, I could put on a suit, I can put on a nice watch all I want.
It's not gonna matter.
I'm still a brown guy. But also, I saw in the comments, I don't know if this got addressed when my power went out, but these people and the people who I think are immediately going to like attack somebody's appearance, right? For the hair or the piercings or whatever, I feel are generally not going to be the people that we're looking for anyway, because they're already patrolling these streets looking to do that, right?
They're already all wearing the same color,
right? So with that being said, like, like to Ash's point in the comments, like they're not going to listen to the femmes anyway, you know what I mean? No matter how they dress, or try to be trad wave coded or whatever. So I think it's one thing to look presentable, but I think it's another thing to placate, especially to whiteness, because even like the suit, for example, where does that come from?
Exactly. It's interesting when I like to wear cool suits at work. So like I have a burgundy suit I like to wear, and it's very wishy-washy at the comments I get from people. It's either like, wow, like nice suit, or why are you wearing that? I go, I don't know. Why are you wearing what you wear?
I mean, you go,
I can.
The answer to that is you go, because I can. Fuck off.
I wish I could tell people to fuck off more than I do. But
I mean, you should. I do it all the time. Just do it. And trust me, it makes your life so much better if you just look at people and
cat
go, fuck
is
off.
here now. There he goes.
Exactly.
No, you're totally right, though. It's definitely kind of like a point that I don't like to get too bogged down in, but it's that every time there's someone on the left is talking, there's just this hammer of right-wingers that won't shut up about what they're wearing or what they look like. And obviously that comes with their belief system, but I personally, I don't get those comments, so that's why I wanted to share it. And part of it is because I'm a white guy, but I feel that another part of it is I'm not easy to attack. So, yeah, I think the being presentable and such, totally agree. I appreciate the pushback too.
Of course. I don't know, because like I don't really get those comments either, and I'm like 5'5" and overweight, but also
No
like,
way, you're
I'm a
short.
cutie,
Let's go. You're shorter than me.
but like I'm also like a cutie pie. So like I don't know, man.
Cutie
Like,
patootie.
but I'm also a guy, so like, or at least mass presenting. So, you know, I guess that's how that goes. But I think we're gonna land this plane. It's been fun talking to you. If you have not, I'm gonna plug our stuff, and then you can plug whatever you want to plug. Please
Plug your
subscribe
stuff
to
any day of the week.
No. Please subscribe to the Kollectiv Patreon. If you haven't already, you can watch our forbidden interview with Comrade Workwear, where we cannot post that on YouTube because YouTube keeps taking it down.
That's actually crazy, though.
Channel. They took it down immediately.
I can't believe they know that.
They said they took it down for association with a criminal organization. Yeah. So please pay us the $1 to watch it. You know, you can record it on your phone and then post it somewhere else. That's fine. But like, do it because I would like people to see this freaking thing. Anywho's and please be on the lookout for our new podcast, the Boys Club, our Femme
Boys Club
March Sundayness podcast. It's
get
been a fun ride. You sure do. Go ahead and watch it right after this. And if you don't, I'll get you. All right.
Cry.
You have anything you want to plug besides me?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yes. Yep.
I do not have anything specific, but honestly, the fact that there's a teeny tiny growing left-wing presence on the internet, not teeny tiny, it's a lot bigger than I give it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to see. I appreciate that you messaged me and you were like, hey, you want to talk? Because I've never been on something like this before. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate your time.
Well, when you're smoking with doobies with Joe Rogan, just remember your humble beginnings.
Oh, I didn't get to this, but there's a part of me that wants to debate Ben Shapiro. But like, it's like one of those things where like, I would get absolutely nowhere because he's paid. But it would look kind of funny because we'd sound the same. And then they could just black out the screen randomly, and you'd have to figure out who's arguing for what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think and that's what I'm saying. That's why you have to do the PragerU video, and we'll put it on Kollectiv, and it will get to him. I promise you. But
you can
anyway,
only debate Ben Shapiro if you match his cadence. If you have to speed debate him.
Yeah, see, my problem is once I start talking fast, it just devolves into like swear words.
Well, you need some training.
Fuck.
You need some training, but it's
just give us more money anyway.
You can actually just sepaately donate
to our cash out. Yeah.
But I don't have anything specific I want to plug. I don't. I have a YouTube that I haven't used yet. How about that? And other than that, read some books, please. Also,
and teach your neighbors how to read if they don't know how.
Yes.
Go to your local bar and start talking communism, and just keep chatting with whoever stays.
Exactly.
All right, gang. Deuces.